All right. Welcome, folks. It's like we'll give another minute, 2 minutes to let folks get logged in. Hopefully, people were able to enjoy the nice weather today. All right. I am gonna go ahead and get started here. Can everybody see the presentation screen?
Yes, looks good.
Awesome. Thanks, Simba. Okay, welcome to tonight's workshop presentation. This is the volunteer orientation for the WaterWise Garden Mentors program. My name is Ashley Ritchie. I am the grant program specialist here at the Ramsey-Washington Metro Watershed District. And so for everyone who is attending and then following up to watch this after the fact, this is for the folks who are going to volunteer to be the garden mentors. Just a quick outline. I'm going to run through a couple things that we already talked about in the informational session. Otherwise, the primary focus of this meeting will be to go through the program guide, which should be available to everyone on the Sign Up Genius or through your project lead. Let's see. And there's just a little screen grab too of what that program guide looks like. So touching base on Ramsey-Washington Metro Watershed District as a watershed district, I think pretty much everyone knows what a watershed district is, but it's a special unit of government that manages water resources and natural resources within a specific boundary set by how water moves across the landscape. The Ramsey-Washington Metro Watershed District is about 65 square miles. It covers over 2 counties and 12 cities and has a whole bunch of lakes, streams, and wetlands. And ultimately, all the water in our district drains to the Mississippi River. For the folks who might be joining from the Vadnais Lake area water management organization, they are located up north of our district, covering mostly North Oaks and Vadnais Heights, with a couple other cities in there too. Let's see. So jumping into the program, kind of a highlight and review, the goal of the WaterWise Garden Mentor program is to provide native plant identification and weed management strategies, as well as garden function and aesthetic to people who have participated in watershed grant projects. Currently signed on to be partner organizations this year are the Ramsey County Garden Education Volunteers, which I think a lot of you folks joining are with. And then this year joining us is also the Master Waters, not the Minnesota Water Stewards. I believe we also might have some folks from the Vadnais Lake Area Water Management Organization volunteers joining, but that has not been finalized yet. So main point of contacts for the organizations that are currently part of the program, the garden education volunteers, I'm sure you all know this, that's going to be Simba. For the water stewards, the current lead for that is Alex. And then for the watershed district, that would be me. So if you have any questions, reach out to project leads and or myself, and we'll make sure that we get you some answers. So, what does it take to become a garden mentor officially? It requires attending these trainings or watching them if you can't do them in person. So, we have three required ones this year, an informational session, which wrapped up in about 15 minutes, as well as this orientation. And then we will have a plant ID workshop later this month as well. That'll be virtual and then recorded and available after. Other resources that we also have, which would be really great for folks to check out. Um, we hosted a rain garden maintenance webinar last year. And so all of these recordings are currently on the YouTube page. If you need direct links, happy to get those to you. If folks are watching this after the fact, then and you're interested in signing up to be a volunteer, you can get that link from your project lead. So, what does this schedule look like? This is going to start in June 10th, so we're 5 weeks away. And it's going to run the second and fourth Wednesdays of each month. There will be two site visits per night, one at 5 p.m., one at 6 p.m. And then we'll also have site visits on the third Saturday of the month at 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. Each site visit should be about 30 to 40 minutes per site, and each site should be within 15 to 20 minutes drive time max. Um, we are utilizing Sign Up Genius this year. I know the garden education volunteers, you're pretty familiar with that. That's your main hub for signups. We do have one running for volunteers and then a separate one running for people to sign up as a participant. The Sign Up Genius forms are set to send reminders. I'll double check with you, Simba, on how many days in advance those are. The scheduling is first come, first serve. So we do ask if you can do both in a night or in a Saturday that you do both site visits. If not, and you can only do one, that's okay too. If we see any gaps on the schedule, feel free to fill it in. For each site, since these were a past grant project, we should have some information, fingers crossed, whether that's a full planting plan and planting list, or maybe at least a rough sketch, and hopefully at a minimum, like I said, a planting list. That information will get to you at a minimum of 2 days beforehand and shooting between 2 days and a week before your site visit is scheduled. Expectations for you folks as you're getting ready to go out to a site. If you have a name tag, I think all the garden education volunteers should have a name tag. Please wear that for your organization, or if you have any logoed gear, wear that as well if possible. We want to make sure that we're very obviously showing up to represent who we're showing up, intending to represent. So dress for the weather. We do have a severe weather procedure, which I'll talk about later on, but this isn't, this will all be outside. At no point should you be going inside unless super severe weather pops up for some reason. You're responsible for bringing relevant materials, and this will kind of depend person to person on what you're comfortable with. But those plans, whether you want to digitally have them or just print them out, in the planting list. And then if you want, you can bring a notepad and writing utensil to take notes. Otherwise, we do have plant identification resources, little 8.5 by 11 handouts that we will get supplied to you guys so that you can hand those out to the landowners. That is also available online, and we'll make sure that folks have that information. And then, kind of self-explanatory, but insect repellent, sun protection. So arriving to the site, obviously we want to be on time. Try not to arrive more than 5 minutes early. Looks kind of weird if folks are just sitting in a car outside of a house. So when you get there, if you're the first one there, please wait for the other mentors to arrive. There will be anywhere from 1 to 3 mentors, with 2 being the primaries and then 1 shadowing. You can see how many mentors are signed up if you go back into the Sign Up Genius, and you can see the slots that are filled. Once you're all there, go ahead and knock on the door, get the project owner's attention, greet them, make sure you introduce yourself, your pronouns, and then provide a brief outline of what you'll be doing just to refresh on this is what the site visit is, this is what we're here for. And so just as that reminder, you're there to assist with plant identification, weed management strategies, and then to discuss the function and aesthetics of it as a native planting and garden. You are not there to weed or plant. So the focus here is education. If they do need help with weeding or planting, we'll talk about that on the next slide or a couple slides. So during the site visit, you want to make sure that you're asking the site owner for their biggest concerns. What are they struggling with? Listen and provide feedback. A lot of times that's what folks are looking for is someone to bounce ideas off of. And it's okay if you don't know the answer to something. It is absolutely fine to say, I don't know, but we can figure it out. Just please make sure to note that question, and then bring it back to your project lead and myself, and we'll make sure that we can reach out to that project owner and get them the information they're looking for. Um, so that's useful resources handout. Make sure you're sharing that with them or letting them know that it's available. They don't have to take it, but we would like to see people using it. The other thing to note during the site visit is anything that is like worth highlighting or anything that's kind of concerning. And so this might be good or bad stuff. It might be the presence of unique plants, both not native and invasive, or a unique native plant that maybe doesn't grow everywhere or struggles sometimes. Otherwise, interesting site management techniques or just design and aesthetics, those are kind of the good things we want to look for. Some of the things that if you note like severe degradation of native planting or rain garden or shoreline where there's a lot of erosion, a lot of exposed soils, or there's standing water in a basin, um, it would be great for us to have that feedback so that we can provide additional resources to that homeowner. And then I'll talk about where you can do that later. So after the site visit, we will have a short survey. It's gonna be just a few questions. It's gonna ask for your feedback on your experience as a volunteer, and then those notable site conditions. So that'll be a quick online, fill it out on your form. And so that's where you can put in, this site looked really great and had this really interesting use of techniques, or this site is only weeds and is horrific. And mostly this is for, again, us as watershed districts to be able to go back and provide these project sites with additional resources. And so the other thing to note is we do have the Landscape Ecology Award program, which is also why I'm asking for any information about a site that looks really good, because our Landscape Ecology Award program goes ahead and recognizes those folks with awards and then puts them on a tour, I think. All right, so health and safety. All of this information is in the program guide with additional detail. So while this slide has a lot of words on it, there's even more detail in the program guide. And if you ever have any questions, please reach out to your project leads, and or myself. So for health and safety, obviously we want to make sure that if you don't feel safe on the site, whether that's the presence of certain individuals or the conditions of the landscape, like steep slopes, or if they're steep, wet slopes, you do not have to stay or you do not have to walk up and down in those types of conditions. Sharing contact between volunteers and the site owners, we're asking that you keep that absolutely only as needed, and then again, making sure that you have full consent from from all parties before sharing any information. For severe weather warnings, if there is a severe weather warning in either Ramsey or Washington County, or any part that includes any part of the 12 cities within our watershed district, we will automatically cancel site visits for that day. Additionally, for severe heat or air quality warnings, if those are something that are going to impact you on a site visit day and make it so that you cannot complete the site visit, please just reach out to your project lead, and then let them know, and then follow any attendance the same way you would for if you're sick and can't attend for other reasons. So notifying your project lead, and then if I know the garden education volunteers have the protocol for finding a replacement, just go ahead and follow those. And then there's a note in the program guide about all canceled site visits will be rescheduled. This year, we will just be rescheduling canceled site visits if there are no other openings available to the site owner. So it'll be if your site visit gets canceled, you'll just have to go back to the Sign Up Genius form and look for openings again. If we have to add some in because we have severe weather for extended days, then we'll do that and it'll just all go into the Sign Up Genius form. So other information, site owner concerns about maintenance or contractors. This is something that we anticipate might come up. If folks have tried using a contractor before, or maybe they currently have one, or they are struggling and they're just really not happy with what the service is being provided to them, there is language in the program guide that you can use that'll give you some phrasing on, depending on if they're under a current contract or if their contract is up. They can always switch if they're not under contract or their contract's expiring. And so what we don't want is we don't want to put our volunteers in a spot where they're either mediating or trying to explain or um, caught in between the displeasure of the site owner with the contractor. So something else to note is that the Ramsey-Washington Metro Watershed District does offer maintenance grants. Those are a 50% cost share up to $1,500 for projects that haven't already had a maintenance grant. So they are one and done per project. And so, and we don't require you to stick with a specific contractor or anything. So you can always hire or switch. Or you can do it yourself too. Um, and then so to build on that LEAP nomination, again, that is something if you're seeing something really good, we'd love to hear about it. Also, if you guys just know about any other sites that are in our watershed district that maybe aren't a site visit, the nomination form is on our website, super easy to fill out. You can also push the person who owns the project to apply themselves. But the program recognizes owners that have been good stewards of the landscape and have installed and maintained exceptional practices that benefit water and natural resources. All right. I think that's all I've got. Shorter than last week. I'll ask for any questions. What I can do too is I'll pull up the resource guide.
Thank you.
Move through the computer.
So I have kind of a question about the participation of the water stewards. I know a couple of folks on here, or I believe a couple of folks on here are Minnesota water stewards, but I'm wondering if you have any idea about how many folks in that program are interested in participating.
As of right now, we've had about five to seven folks. Um, Nobody has officially reached out, and I haven't touched base with Alex or Cheyenne yet to get a final count or a better idea of that yet. The goal would be to have, in a perfect world, the goal would be to have a garden education volunteer and a water steward on each site visit. Um, and I probably should have had that information in their sign up. I might modify that so that when you're signing up, you can see uh, which organization you're with in case there's so many garden education volunteers, you don't know who's who. Um, but and then I mentioned before, there is a third position on the sign up. That is, and these descriptions are in the sign up form. That third position is intended to be a shadow position. So it's for someone who's maybe never done a site visit before and they kind of just want to see how the flow goes, some of the conversations might be, and just get a little bit more comfortable before they go and actually do it as the main point of contact. We do just ask that if you're that third shadowing person, that you kind of sit back and listen versus actively participate, more so because we don't want to have three volunteers to maybe only one homeowner and have be an unbalanced conversation there. So making sure that we give that site owner enough space and to have that conversation. All right. Folks can see the useful resources for plant identification PDF, hopefully. Um, I can make it bigger. Let's do that. Um, I apologize too because Adobe is being not fast. So we'll see if this works. Um, there we go. Okay. So we pulled this together last year. And frankly, it's been pretty helpful for a lot of folks. The goal here is to be able to have this as a one-page handout where we can hand it, whether it's a digital PDF or a physical 8.5 by 11, we can hand it to somebody, we can email it to somebody and say, here's a whole bunch of resources, and here's a little bit about those resources as well. Because if you do a Google or you do a search online, you get a lot of information. It's a mixed bag on what you're finding. And so what we've done is we've tried to pull all that information, all the best resources into a single spot and package it to hand over. So are there other resources? Absolutely. These are what we have found in our experience to be the best resources and the most consistent and the most up to date. So first up, mobile apps for plant ID. I'm sure almost everybody on this call probably already has these apps. But don't be afraid to pull it up and show the homeowner or get the project owner to download it and then run them through on how it works. Um, both of these apps are great and don't require subscriptions to be great. There are some other ones that do a great job, but do require subscriptions. And so our goal is to make sure we're providing as easily accessible resources. And so both PlantNet and Seek have non-subscription options. Helpful links. Let's see here. So we did provide a description under each one. Can you see the little pointer too? Great. So each title is a link to the website. But additionally, if you were to have this as a handout, you could just search those names and that website should be the top result. Um, and so just a few of the resources. If anybody's not familiar with any of them or wants a little bit more detail, feel free to shout it out or put it in the chat and I can pull those up. But Blue Thumb, that is one of the best tools for overall plant selection based on a variety of conditions. You can go by bloom time, or color of the bloom, height, soil conditions, light conditions, and you can kind of do all of that at once or not. So that's nice. And then the other one that does that very similarly is the Minnesota Wildflowers Field Guide. Um, and then let's see, what else do we have here? Okay. So DNR invasive plant list. This is a great list that lists a lot of the invasive plants and vegetation that you want gone and probably need to manage them. So it does have individual links for each species, and it is typically listed by the common name. For seedlings, we have found that the Iowa seedling and seed guide is one of the better resources for identifying those. I will just throw it out there. If you are asked to identify a little tiny plant that looks to be in seedling form and the plant app can't get it, then you can say, let's wait till it blooms. Sometimes that is the answer to plant identification. Um, so don't feel bad if that's what you have to do. The other thing to kind of familiarize yourself with, that's a good resource too, is the MnDOT noxious weed list. So this is, and I do have a note here, this is a very large file. It's full color, lots of images, great detail. It's probably more information than most people need, but these are the plants that in Minnesota are either prohibited, restricted, or have special regulations on them. In addition to this list, there are additional lists that are provided by counties that, again, need special management and are required to be removed. And I think Ramsey County has I don't think they have anything outside of the noxious weed list. They might have one or two. Some other lists. The MPC has stormwater plants for stormwater design. And some interesting things about those lists is they have salt tolerance. So that's one of those resources that is a little bit different, where it lists, plants that are very tolerant of salt and then other ones that aren't tolerant of salt. The wildflower, ooh, geesh, touchy. Um, the wildflowers field guide, super great information, like especially botanical, like about the actual plant, and identifications if you're familiar with stem styles and leaf or orientation, and a lot more technical on that side. But great pictures and good feedback too about people can comment on where they've seen it and can share their own photos. So cool to see sometimes different parks, or you'll be like, oh, that was in this. If you're between two plants and you're like, I don't know if it's this or that, but one's only found in southern Minnesota or has been identified by your neighbor down the road or in Shoreview or at the Ramsey County Park. It's kind of fun to see like, oh, if it's there, there's a good chance it might be here too. Um, and then the U of M extension, is this plant a weed? It's a great source for weed identification. And they're organized by the type of plant that they are. And then I just included here the maintenance grant. And then why is this being, see if we can, and that's it. It's just a simple one pager. Um, Questions.
Last year we also had a checklist of common weeds. Is
Oh,
that
is that not? That is, all right. It just didn't scroll. I knew there was more here.
okay?
Okay. Again, Adobe's being weird. Okay, so we do also, the other information that is in this handout, it is technically 3 pages, but all the resources are on one. So if you just have a one pager, it's okay. We do offer free site consultations to anyone. So if you're at a site and um, they're really struggling and they're like, hey, we need more, or maybe we want to expand it or we want to do something else, they can go ahead and submit that site consult. And then staff will come out and we work with the Ramsey County landscape designers to design full plans. So, and provide additional information too, if you, especially for sites maybe that are struggling or need help. Back to this and then my contact. And then the list of common weeds is also in this handout. And so these are sorted by growing type, and then a couple other ones that are just a couple other categories. So this information on some of these plants will be covered as part of the plant ID workshop. Questions? Crickets. All right.
Hey, Ashley, this is Bill. Couple of questions. I wasn't sure the resource guide that you're showing now, that's the only resource guide. I wasn't sure if there was a second one with a bigger picture of things.
Um, nope. So the resource guide that I'm currently sharing, that is for volunteers to hand out. The smaller image that I shared earlier is the program guide, and that is specifically for the volunteers.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Does
And for
that
the
answer your
Ramsey
question?
County, the Ramsey County Garden Education Volunteers, there's a link to that on the
Mhm.
Sign Up Genius that brought you here today.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. And then it sounded like some of the visits might already be in Sign Up Genius, or did I misunderstand that?
So the form is already built. I think we just need to share it out. And we haven't shared that out. I don't, right, Simba? Yeah,
Okay.
okay. We've
Okay.
got a couple more things to work out. There was a feature that was broken, and so I was working with Sign Up Genius to try and get it fixed. So that will be going out before probably next week. That's what I'll shoot for. Simba will talk, we'll touch base to make sure that you have all the um everything that you need is in it.
Do we
So
have a lot of homeowners or project owners who are interested in assistance yet this year?
I think we already have 7 people signed up, and it just went out on Monday.
Good.
So, a lot, I recognize several of the names. A good chunk of them have more recent projects or have been pretty actively involved. And so that's typically what we see with these site visits is are folks who um are involved either in the with the watershed district in other ways or have done multiple grant projects or are very eager to continue doing projects. So it's normally a pretty fun crowd that's signing up for these site visits. So we'll be pushing them out probably again at the end of the month to make sure that we're filling those slots. Um, because yeah, I think last year we filled all of them. There was some weird happenings about people not showing up, but um, which I guess for in an instant where you do show up and there's not a homeowner, I would say give them about 5, 10 minutes, maybe 15 if you're really patient. And this is where we can try and get a hold of them on their cell phone potentially. But sometimes they just forget and then they go on vacation or life things happen and they disappear. Both of those situations happened last year. Um, so this year, with Sign Up Genius is sending a reminder to them as well. I think a day or 2 days in advance. So hopefully that minimizes how much uh, absentee site visits we have.
Yeah, that's a great feature of Sign Up Genius. Should be helpful.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Everybody's got it all figured out.
Okay, cool, cool. If anyone does think of questions, or if you're watching this after the fact and you have questions, feel free to reach out. Again, either to Simba if you're a garden education volunteer, or Alex, or if it's directly on the program, I mean, I can answer those questions and I'll loop in your project lead too. So, um, but yeah. I appreciate everybody taking the time to come and join us virtually in person. And then for all the folks who might be watching this after the fact, we've had really great feedback from the people who have had site visits, and they're really appreciative of this service. So it's something that we're super excited to provide. Yeah,
Oh,
Arlene.
How would we get hold of that piece of paper that we would hand out?
Great question. That's a little on the logistics side. I'll touch base with Simba, and or Alex. We'll for sure have them at our office, and we'll make sure that you have it digitally as well. Um, and so I don't know how best to distribute physical materials, and if it is a problem, we'll just do digital. That's a-okay too. We can pull that whole site onto a web page for simplicity's sake.
yeah, I mean, it's always nice to have something to hand out on site. And
Mhm.
last year we did have physical copies. So uh, we'll work together and figure out how to get a copy to you if I won't be there or, somebody who has the physical copy won't be
Yeah.
there. We'll figure out how to get it to the folks who are doing the site visits.
Yep. But good question. Thank you for asking. Okay. Last call for questions. And thank you, Janet. Appreciate the comment. All right. With that, I will let everybody go back to the sunny outdoors or whatever other plans you have for today. And again, thank you so much for participating. Hopefully, you guys sign up for a few different site visits or days. And just want to say thank you all for taking this time and considering participating as a volunteer. It's great because it helps me so much because I only have so much time in my own work life and personal life to help out. So, love to have enthusiastic folks like yourselves join in. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, everybody.